Welcome everybody to Social Selling Hour number 23, I've been told, on this October 20th. Hope everyone is doing well. We are joining you talking social selling, sales, content, marketing, and whatever else we feel fit on these Monday afternoons. This is our 23rd week of social selling. How are you doing today, Rachel?
I am fantastic. It's a busy day. It's powering through.
Busy day on this October Monday. Like always, we are on Google Plus Hangout, which means you can watch our embedded YouTube that we have available, as well as join us on Google Plus. And where all the conversation is happening is on the Twitters, hashtag #SSHour on Twitter. Make sure you comment, join in there from the Twitter chat perspective, and we will pull your questions in. We are excited to have not only one of our community members, but a social selling content tools man. Jeff, welcome to Social Selling Hour.
It's a pleasure to be here, Brian. Thank you so much. I am an honored guest of yours and Rachel's. I've been a big fan of the show, and just a pleasure to be on it today, and so pumped to talk about content and content marketing. Content is king, and we're going to go over all the reasons why that's the case in today's chat. So I'm super pumped. Thank you.
Awesome. So give us a little background about yourself, where you're coming from, who you work for, why we should care what you have to say.
Sure. Well, I'm working for a hot startup right now, which is not in Silicon Valley, but we're based out of the Washington, D.C. area. And we've got, just a couple months ago, we received $3.4 million in investor money to start growing the vision for our company, which is focused on content marketing. And the team here that's working along my side is a team that developed Eloqua and made it into nearly $1 billion company, and Oracle acquired it. So it's super excited just to be part of this team, part of this growth, part of the content marketing wave that we all, I think, evangelize on Twitter, on social, about how important content marketing is. And I've had the pleasure to use it myself. Content, I've seen it grown. Several companies that I've worked with, several clients that I've consulted. I've been teaching them how to use content, how to produce content, how to market content, and turn that content into dollar bills, y'all.
I like it. We got content is king, dollar bills. That means it's going to be a fun hour. Yes, I agree. I hear. It's funny. Anytime we bring up tools or content, I think we usually get an active Twitter chat, because Twitter kind of is like, what tools are you using? Why am I using them? And then you have the content is king, what content's going on. So this will be a great conversation for sure. So like we said before, everybody join us on Twitter. We'll make sure the questions are there. We are becoming masters of multitasking. So if you see us looking down or you see tweets happening, we promise Rachel and I have no robots or third hands. We are live engaging and live tweeting here on Social Selling Hour. So we're going to jump into question number one. And question number one is, what is content marketing, and why is it such an important part of a company's marketing strategy?
So, great question. And this is, content marketing isn't something that's brand new. I think it's always been around, just in a different format, right? I learned from a presentation I attended that the first attempt at content marketing was actually by this company, John Deere, right? Which is so far removed from our high-tech society, or the way that we think about it. But they produced this catalog, or really more of a magazine, and just talking about different things that their farmers or the people that they were selling to would be interested in. And that alone was a big driver in helping them get sales, just informing people, educating people. So when it comes to content, I think content marketing is so important and should be part of your strategy, because people still buy from people that they know. They still buy from people that they like, right? They still buy from people that they trust, and they still buy from people that they respect. And content marketing is a great way, an effective way, to do those four things. So that's why it should be part of your strategy, because if people are still buying based on those things that are important to them, then as a company, I need to be doing that to make sure that they're buying from me.
I mean, can a company have a successful marketing strategy without content marketing these days? It seems like it basically is marketing. I mean, it's the foundation of everything.
You're absolutely correct. I think just like social selling, we hear so much about social selling today. In a year or a couple of years, it's just going to be part of sales, right? It's even like social media. We thought, oh, social media was this huge different thing, but now when you think about marketing, so social media has to be part of that strategy if you want to be successful in today's day and age, because the times have changed, the way that people do business have changed, the way that people buy have changed, and because we're so content focused. When purchasing a car, we're going to be doing a lot of research, going to a lot of forums and looking at comparisons and asking our friends on Twitter, looking at some of those Twitter chats, so looking at some blog posts. Any purchase nowadays, you're going to be doing a lot of investigation, and guess what? Content is at the core of that.
That's why I thought it's funny or interesting you said John Deere, because I always quote Marcus Sheridan, the sales lion, on him kind of really opening my eyes to the power of content. And he owned a pool company in Virginia, right? So, and then another one I have the book behind me, Utility, by Jay Baer. But Jay Baer's a real estate guy, and so often I think of content as I'm like, oh my God, I have to be an author, have to be a published writer, have to be like this master of the spoken word, or being able to really go with grammar. I joked in an article, I said I need a 900 on my writing SATs, none of which I have any of, and I like to think that I produce some content on a regular basis. So content not only has changed how we're doing everything, like that's the reason I think content is king has kind of become a great buzz. If you were watching Content Marketing World, I loved watching Kevin Spacey talk about how they use content in Netflix for House of Cards. That's just some mind-boggling things. So when you think of content marketing, I guess I'm gonna throw a curveball here just before we get into a little bit deeper. But when you're talking trends, when you think of trends of content marketing, what kind of trends are you seeing, or things that you are maybe surprised you or that are a buzz out there today?
Sure. So when you say about being an author to be great at content, I think you've nailed it. You don't have to be a great writer or a great author to be good at content, producing content marketing. Some of the best content is actually visual, photographs, videos. That a picture is worth 1,000 what?
Yep.
So you don't have to be an expert author nowadays to get a ton of engagement with your content. So just think of all the different types of content that you could produce, and if you could do one of those really well, you could be successful. You could leverage your strength to be awesome at producing content. Now, something else that I'm seeing besides a more focused visual trend for content production, also content curation. So I don't always have to produce great content myself to do content marketing. I could tap into the greatest minds that are out there, like Jay Burr and Gary Vaynerchuk. I see those books right behind you. You could tap into those authors, right, into what they're writing, or in whatever industry you happen to be a part of. Look at those influencers, look at those thought leaders, look at those publications, and then just be an awesome curator, right? Think of that museum curator that's, he's got all these different pieces at his disposal, but he's going to use his judgment, his experience to select the best ones. And the ones that he selects and chooses to be part of this collection, people are amazed by that, right? They're going to gravitate to him because he has that taste, that is able to go through all these and make the right selection for what my audience should be consuming, should be looking at. So if you are the curator and you put yourself in that position and take the time to read content, to look at what is valuable from your audience perspective, and you become that curator, that's another awesome way to do great content marketing without having to be an author. And that's another trend that we're seeing emerge, a lot of more focus on doing great content curation.
Is curating quality content as important as creating your own content?
You always have. Great question. I think you always have to have your own voice. So you can never fully depend on just curated content. If that the best approach is to produce your own content. You're creating content and have the curated voice make your voice stronger, right? So if you're talking about a lot of these different trends or making certain points in your content, the content that you curate and share, if it should echo what you're saying. It should add extra support to what you're saying, to the points that you're trying to convey.
Well, I think that's interesting because I argue a lot of times that curating content can almost be more powerful in many instances, but the reason it can be more powerful is that you are putting your own spin, your own take on it, and I really firmly believe in the idea that every social action you do is your storytelling element. So if it's content curation, if it's retweeting, link dropping or retweeting without having your own say or input, that's not content curation. And I think too often we associate that as curating means that you're adding your own insight and your own view into someone else's original content. And with the amount of content we have out there, honestly, more people should probably be curating than they should be creating their own from scratch. Because if I find a great article that is inspired me from Forbes, why not leverage that and then put my own insights and my own take on it? So I agree with you on the idea that you have to have your own voice, your own story on content. So I think that kind of leads perfectly, into that whole story of why content is more than just a blog post. It's what we're doing right here. This is a great piece of content that we're technically curating. We're taking a topic and we're having a discussion here, and then we're going to take this video and turn it into how many different elements of content.
Yep. The best content curation has context and has conversation. You want to have those two elements. Context could be just like you say, a spin-off or your own analysis from the content that you've consumed. It could be just a single tweet, or it could be an entire blog post, or it could be an entire case study based off of that. And then the second part is the conversation. And the conversation is, for me, it's my favorite thing to do, right? To be able to talk to people about content, to be able to ask questions around it, to have a dialogue around that. For social selling, that's imperative. I pass on content to my prospects, but unless I can get them engaged and say, hey, look at this example, look at this case study, are you facing these similar challenges? Asking those questions around the content will help me have that conversation, which will give me the information that I need to be able to guide that prospect to make the right decision that's going to benefit them in the long term. So adding those two things to content is going to make it a lot very, very powerful.
So I think we've already answered question 2, so I'm kind of going to skip through, but I have kind of a tangent from that. So how important is using hashtags when you're curating content?
It's a way to track the conversation for me, and I think a way to discover also, to get other people to discover this. That's how I found out about SS Hour, right? If you guys weren't using a hashtag, I would have no idea this was part of an ongoing conversation every week. And there's some other examples, like Sales for Life has another social selling conversation because they're using that hashtag. That's the way I discovered what they were doing, and it's a way for me to also get plugged in and make sure that I'm part of that ongoing weekly conversation. Pipeliner also has another social selling. So these are all happening, and I'm discovering these because of the hashtag that's coming across my Twitter feed. So I think it's hashtags are important because if you want to bring additional awareness to that ongoing topic, then make sure you bring in that hashtag as well.
Yeah, and I think the noise, right? The noise is what we're dealing with. There's content everywhere coming out of our ears. We have content, even the ticker across the football game last night when I was watching, Peyton Manning break the record. They had like hyperlinks in the ticker, and I was like, where am I clicking that at? But at the same time, there's an element there where they were giving you a link to see the Brett Favre breakdown with Peyton Manning. I was like, man, they're using the content where they have my captured audience, and they're now curating, almost by adding their own insights and then hyperlinking me in there. And of course, the geek that I am took out my iPhone, took a picture of it, and then later on went into the website to see where they were going. So I think the hashtags, to me, it really does help filter that noise. So yeah, I think that's great. Jumping into question 3.
Okay, content is king, but how important is to track the success of your campaigns? I know a lot of people are really focused on just quantity, just pumping out content, but I think very few people are actually taking the time to track the success. So what metrics do you recommend people monitor, and why?
Okay. So the metrics that I look at and that you should look at would fall into 3 categories. The first one is awareness, the second one is engagement, and the third one is conversions. And the third one is the most important one and the one that the fewest people track. And it boggles my mind because you're producing all this content for what, right? I think the end goal for every business is to make sales, to make a profit. So if you're not tracking conversions, right, people that are actually engaging at a higher level with your message, whether it's maybe email, getting their information, getting them as a lead, getting a sale, whatever that, however you define that conversion, if you're not tracking that, you're doing it wrong. So most people that start off usually with the awareness piece, right, which is, okay, how many people are seeing my tweet? How many people are clicking this link? And that's fine, but you also want to track the engagement that happens. So once they're on your website, once they do click that link that you tweeted out, are they actually reading your article? Are they on there for longer than 30 seconds? So I measure that, I give that a certain score when I'm measuring my content and the benefits of my content and the results of that. So are they on there for longer than 30 seconds? Are they retweeting this? Are they favoriting this article? Are they commenting on my blog posts? So these are engagement metrics that I track. And then awareness is everything that, you know, the reach of your tweet, or how many people clicked on that link initially. That can be looked at awareness, so impressions that you're getting. But any metrics that you measure should fall under those three categories. But remember, in my opinion, the most important one is the conversions. Because if your content isn't leading to conversions, what's the point?
Well, I think that's interesting because I think the conversion can be represented in many different forms, right? Conversion, depending on your strategy and your goal, can really mean, for me, the conversion is to sign up for a webinar. Now, that's not a sell, you know, dollars-wise, but that webinar is where I can close, right? For a long time, I was a community guy, and I always say, buddy, I'll get them into your website, and I'll get you to put their email address in. It's your job to close them, you know, like, and that's where I would, you know, and we kind of worked out a strategy there. And some interesting, we had lots of the Twitters are on fire here, talking metrics and talking all kinds of things when it comes to content versus curation. A couple of people talking about kind of how they curate, what they curate from like a percentage style. One of the ones that I saw here was, you know, comfortable customers, buy more, buy faster, buy longer. Uncomfortable customers, you know, more than uncomfortable customers. So the idea there is, you know, Jay Baer's quote is one that I quickly adopted, you know, that content that helps will always beat content that sells. I think that's an interesting, you know, thing to always think about when we're creating content. Even if your goal is to convert, if you're helping them in a way that you're converting them by building that relationship, that's power and currency. Because I even was on a call earlier today and was talking about, you know, a lot of times that long-term relationship that you build will actually be converting multiple times compared to that one click and buy. And it was because of this really piss poor customer service tweet that I had posted out there. But I think that's, you know, that's an interesting thing. When you think of metrics, and are you a big fan of tying, or what are your thoughts on tying content with like Google Analytics, thinking of more of like SEO element of content?
Sure. So Google Analytics is great because you're looking at the time. You can look at different, depending on how you set it, you can look at different things, but how much time people are spending on your website. So sometimes on Twitter you tweet things out, the people that are engaging and come back to your website, they don't hang out very long. They bounce, right? They go somewhere else, and you know that might not be the highest quality traffic for your site. You know, LinkedIn, maybe the people that are coming in from LinkedIn though are staying on your site longer, are looking at more pages, are converting at higher rates. So you need to have some type of analytical information to know, as the content marketer, where should I be spreading my content? Maybe Twitter isn't the best place for me to start sharing a lot of stuff because I'm getting better engagement with the people that are in LinkedIn groups or on my LinkedIn profile. Or maybe blogging is a better way for me to produce and share content because that type of traffic is actually yielding a better result for me. So if you can't measure it, you can't manage it, right? A famous Peter Drucker quote. And it's so true. I mean, you got to have analytics. You got to have maybe different types of analytics to give you that insight. My company, Triblio, right, the major focus for us is tracking anonymous visitors to your site. So being able to know, okay, what are the patterns of these people that are coming to the site? What are they engaging, interacting with, and remembering that. So next time they come, we make sure that we serve them content that is very relevant to them. And you could do that anonymously through a platform like Triblio, or if you have a marketing automation system in place, and that person's already a fan of yours, they're a lead of yours, then you should be able to use that marketing automation system to serve them up relevant content based on where they're at in their buyer's journey. So having technology, having tools makes a job of a content marketer a lot easier and more effective because you know what's working and you know what's not.
Yeah, I want to retouch on your comment about time on site. One of my pet peeves currently is knowledge retention, and we touched on vanity metrics, and people just love to quickly retweet. And I know Brian and I have joked that when you hit publish on WordPress and people are retweeting seconds after it goes live, they didn't read it because it's a 1,500-word blog post. There's no way anybody could have possibly read it that quickly. So I've been paying really close attention to time on site, and I think that's a huge part because you can track where they go. Obviously we want a sale. That's you're engaging with them, but making sure they actually read it, I think, is super important because that is the sign of successful content. It's not just views, but making sure it's actually being digested.
Yep. So. Something else that I love to track that I am seeing an emergence of companies wanting to track this, but it's the average journey of a buyer. So over time, you're able to collect data that shows you typically the person that converts at the highest rate sees 3 or 4 different pieces of content before they do. And these are the 4 blog posts, or these are the 4 pages that they visit. And if they visit these 4 pages, then guess what? They're more likely to convert, and also that leads to a higher quality lead. So instead of having a call to action on their first visit that tells them, hey, come convert, you're just telling them, hey, come look at this other piece of content that has great information. And then once they're on that page, then you tell them, hey, come look at this, download this white paper, or look at this other piece of content. And so you want to qualify them before you ask them to convert, and you're able to do that in the right order if you have enough data that tells you, hey, this is the average buyer's journey, and this is what they're most interested in, and if they're able to go through this content journey, they're going to convert at a higher rate. And having that information is, once you do, it's the holy grail of being able to push them in the right direction and getting higher quality conversions.
And I think that's when we talk about social listening, I called it social intelligence at my last company, and the reason I did is because I believed I was doing much more in social media. Is DJ Waldo, who worked at Marketo, we're going to talk tools here in a minute, but he had a big thing where he was like, there's a big difference between smart email marketing and dumb email marketing. And I didn't know what that meant until I kind of listened to his podcast that he had for a long time, talking about knowing when someone updated something, or if they clicked on the link, or so you're not, one of the pet peeves of, if I can track multiple touch points, but I want to know, for me, I even like the idea, like, I want to know when they eject from a YouTube video, because I want to get statistics to understand that if I emailed a YouTube video out, and yes, we had 98% click rate, but they only watched 1.5 minutes of my 5 minutes. Well, my next video better only be 1.5 minutes long, right? That's intelligently looking at social listening, data. Like, we have all of that data and feedback today. There's no excuse. We have to understand what's out there, and we also have to work together. Everything you were saying there, I'm nodding my head, but I'm also thinking, well, how many different departments have to work together, or how many different people, how many different tools? Because you had SEO, you had content curation, which is subject matter experts, marketing, you also have your product team involved. You had sales when you want, for me, I always went to the sales team first and then customer service second, because I said, I want to know what my community is saying, what they like, what they don't like. And if you're not doing that, and if you're creating content without asking your sales or your customer service team what they're hearing, you might as well just be, go ahead and, throw a baseball in the ocean, because you have no real direction on your content strategy there. So, for Q4 there, for question 4, are we talking, what are the best tools to monitor content and marketing efforts? Like, when you think of tools, what are someone that you share? I would love to hear what's in Rachel's toolbox too, because as a chief listener, I'm always learning from what tools and how Rachel uses some of these things as well.
So my favorite tool, and the one that is proven to make you the most successful here, it's the most low-tech tool you could think of, but it's having, here it goes, guys, having a documented content marketing strategy. I'm going to say having a documented content marketing strategy that you've actually written it down somewhere, and that the whole team knows, hey guys, this is the content that we're going to be doing, this is the plan, this is the calendar. Having that is the most valuable tool, bar none. low tech as it is, it will produce you the highest results. And this is even backed up by a marketing prof's 2005 benchmarks and research project that they recently put out. That's the number one thing that will make you more successful with content marketing. And once you have that plan, then of course, technology definitely will help out. I use obviously Tribular, our platform for content curation and for analytics, and to be able to present that content in a great way. Compose is another one. Curata. You have Scoop It, which I know Rachel's a big fan of. You have companies like Trap It. So if you're doing a lot of content marketing, those platforms are key. And then having analytics, Google Analytics by far is my favorite. But having also a marketing automation system in place that will help you after the top of the funnel, once they start getting into that funnel, helping you nurture those relationships, because nowadays you can't close deal from one day to the next. It takes some time. So having a good marketing automation like Eloqua or HubSpot or Marketo would be very helpful, and a good email system if you don't have a marketing automation, and having a CRM, having like Pipeliner or CRM or Nimble or Salesforce, but having a way to track those relationships is key. And I have all those tools in my toolbox. I use a little bit of everything, and for Twitter, Buffer is also a great tool. Hootsuite. So there's just a ton out there. It really depends on what your interests are and your budget, and how heavy you're going to be using these tools. What's in your toolbox?
Yeah, Rachel, what's in yours?
Actually, I just want to say that I'm really pleased that you mentioned content strategy and an editorial calendar, because I think that's where so many companies go wrong. It's just there has to be a cadence to the content you're producing, and it can't just be willy-nilly, like one day we're talking about data centers and the next day we're talking about Twitter chats. There has to be a rhythm if you're trying to attract prospects. So I think that's really important. And I know at Pipeliner we're really old school. We use spreadsheet, Google Docs. It's transparent. All departments can access it. So if anyone's interested, they can always open the doc and see what's going on many months out, which I think is really cool. And I've also started to incorporate chat guests because we play with that with the blog. So that's a really key to success. As far as my toolkit, it's hard to beat Google Analytics. I like a lot of the native platforms. And I like that a lot of people are enhancing their analytics, like Twitter. They didn't really have analytics up until quite recently, so that's been really cool, seeing the engagement aspects and what tweets are generating the most impressions and getting the most Twitter love. I'm a huge Hootsuite girl. It's one of my go-tos. I do use Metal. I do love Scoop It, but actually Metal is by far my #1 curation and commentary platform right now. So shout out to our Metal peeps. They're doing a great job over there. And then I have a variety of others. I know, like Brian, we're tool junkies, so I probably have 20 tools that I may not access every day, but I get notifications in my inbox, so I always know what's going on.
And I think that's awesome. I think we got 3 people here that all love tools, but if there's one thing we all have the same opinion on is, a tool is just a tool without a strategy, right? I guess that's the lesson learned here, because the first time someone asks me, and it happens all the time, especially because I have no problem admitting that I'm a avid geek and like testing tools, is that if you ask me what tool should I be using, I'm going to ask you about your strategy and goals without ever giving advice or a tool or something to use, because there is no one tool fits all. I don't care if you are a Salesforce shop, if you're an IBM shop. IBM is a great example. Like, I was talking to IBM, what they use for employee advocacy, what they use for content curation. We were talking about Metalit. We were talking about Everyone's Social. We were even talking about Dynamic Signal. And these are all different companies and all different brands tools, because even a enterprise like IBM understands that not every tool fits every department, every person, every strategy. So, I'm like Rachel and you guys, I'm a fan of both Metalit and Scoop It from a curation standpoint. Also, there's another one called Meshfire that, if you guys aren't using that yet, from a moderating, like a dashboard perspective, because for all of this noise that's coming in, we all can't afford the big sprinklers or Spreadfast, these great enterprise management tools. But one of my favorite things about Meshfire is Meshfire does a great job of giving me like a formulated dashboards where I can see who I haven't engaged with lately, what tasks I have. I can also flag different people for things that I want to follow up with later. Another reason why I was a big fan of Nimble. Nimble does a good job of You can document your interactions. One of the things I thought you guys said when you were talking tools that I was smiling about was, if it's a CRM or if it's content, the key there is you have to have tools that are giving you good data, but you have to have the context behind it. You guys were talking, I mean, if I would look at that question, I was analyzing what you guys said. It was you have to have a strategy. There's lots of great tools out there, but you also have to understand the context of what that tool is gathering, what that tool data they're getting. So I thought that those are some great ones. We're getting some awesome ones coming through the Twitter sphere. I know a couple of people, actually, Brian Kramer jumped in and asked me, what do I like most about Meshfire? And for me, it filters the noise based on my own settings, so I can configure tasks and my own little, and even I can manage my own team. Like, that's another reason why I love Buffer, is I manage a team of 14 people within Buffer to share out content and tweets and content through there as well. Another one, we have Jill Raleigh jumped in there saying, strategy trumps tools. A fool with a tool is still a fool. I've heard Jill shares that with us on stage at Social Media Marketing World. That's a great something to remember when we're talking tools. I also don't think you can't know that your tool is the one tool that does everything unless you're trying out other tools. So I know Rachel said that. Rachel and I have probably been on so many different demos with many different tools. Actually, I think, Jeff, that was the first time that you and I talked face-to-face, or I like to say digital eyeballs to digital eyeballs, was a demo of your tool, and I was blown away. Like, I learned a little bit about it, but just seeing how it works, seeing how it fits into different workflows, to me that's a great piece of a tool that understands the workflow, understand what needs to be happened. So, when you guys think, give the one overall tip. If you had to give someone a tip for deciding what tool they can use, what's the one thing that you say you have to look at from a tool perspective? Jeff, I'll let you hit that home.
You have to test it out. You have to be able to try it out, to apply it in your own scenario, and see if it works. I think that's I'm not going to go buy a car without taking it for a test drive. It would be silly of me to do that. And I think for anyone that's looking to use a tool, right, make sure you test it out, right, commit to testing it out for a while, and then measure and see how it works for you. And if it doesn't work, guess what? Scrap it, right? There's other tools out there that you could probably use and will be effective for you. But you got to be able to, give it a good trial, and of course, commit to doing the trial the right way and to measuring the results that you get from that. And then figure out, hey, is the return that I'm getting on this tool, is it worth the investment of money, of course, but also of time? And if it is, then great. It's a wonderful tool to then add to your toolbox.
That's one of the quotes that I think Chris Brogan said that I love the most. He was like, the only people that are fools with tools are ones that realize that the tool is not giving them the value and they stick with it. Like, there's so many tools that are out there today. Be the one that says, okay, I love this tool for what it did. Now there's another tool that's out there that does it better. So I think that's a big step. What about you, Rachel? When it comes to tools, what's your walking orders?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in just demoing everything and constantly demoing, because yes, there's new tools are popping up daily, specifically in our space. And don't be scared to ask for an extended trial. 2 weeks is not enough. And I run them frequently in conjunction with my tool that I think is best in class, and I'll try a new one, and I run them head to head. And I always ask for an extended trial, 30 days, whatever they'll give me. So I'm sure a lot of people are scared to ask, but it's a really easy thing to do, and it's always granted. And just know your tool. So once you commit to one, take the time to read through the documentation that's providing, say yes to all of the onboarding. It's a pet peeve of mine. Everybody, back to Hoot, everybody uses Hootsuite. Nobody knows how to use it. Just really take it. It is an investment, and it's mostly your time. These tools aren't expensive, but it's important that you know how to leverage them to get the most out of them.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact number, but it was somewhere under 8% when I had worked with Sprinkler, which I'm a huge fan of their solution for enterprise social management. And they said they had did a survey of enterprise social media tools, and less than 8% of the total features of a tool was actually being utilized for all social business enterprise tools. And that's just scary, which is, for those tool makers out there, you better make the features that you sell us on worthwhile, but training matters. The community matters. The reason that, I'm a big fan of Hootsuite from a standpoint of they listen to their community, lots of people are using their tools, but the reason that I found Buffer as a tool that I lean towards was because it did exactly what I needed it to do. I didn't need to go in and teach my entire team all of the bells and whistles. So I think that's an important aspect of tools as we move forward. So another topic that I love to talk about here, and I love this question. Rachel comes up with all of our awesome questions, so I have to give her credit for it. But what is clickbaiting, and how can marketers and salespeople leverage this tactic? And I'll give you a little background on this. I listened to an awesome podcast, I'll have to pull it up, about a week ago on the power of clickbaiting and what it does and what it hasn't, or what it does good and what it's been overused or misused for. So I would love to hear your insight on this, because I think this is a fun question. Jump at it, Jeff.
So I'll tell you what clickbaiting is, but you got to join me again tomorrow. Right? That's what it seems like to me. Click, it's just that hook to get you to do the next step, right? And usually the next step is to click here and read the story. And clickbaiting is still around because it's effective. And I see it so much on Facebook and even on LinkedIn, very powerful headlines that get your attention and you follow through and you click the link to read it. Why clickbait sucks, or when it sucks, is when you can't deliver on the power of that headline. So when you've got a great headline, but then your follow through is crappy, right? The information isn't all there that you promised, right? It isn't what you built it up to be. Then I'm just left deflated like a lonely balloon, and I remember that. And next time you put up a clickbait story on my timeline, I'm like, I'm not falling for that again, and you lose me. So you could use clickbait with me. I'm all right with that, right? If it's get me with that headline, but when I click that link and I read the story, you better deliver, because if you don't, then I will remember that, and you'll lose me, and you'll lose my trust. So that's my thoughts on clickbait. You could use it, but just be very careful of how you use it. And there's there's a Twitter account that I follow. It's called Saved You a Click or something like that, and where it basically takes all those clickbait stories and it tells you the point of the story in 140 characters, and it says, hey, you don't even have to click the story to find out what happened. We tell it to you here. So that's a funny account that I like to follow, but it's those are my thoughts on clickbaiting.
Well, it's funny because I always thought of clickbaiting that if a clickbait or a title that takes me to content, I'm perfectly fine with, because I always like, grab me and send me to content. But damn it, if you send me clickbait and it's to a landing page that has no value other than the submit my email address, it's more likely going to get me to block or unfollow your account, because it's that frustrating to me. Because you know what, if my time is valuable, give me a reason to put my email address in there. You already got me hooked because you gave me the bite off of the click. Give me some content. Give me the first paragraph. Give me the first page. I mean, I know Brian Kramer's in here in our Social Selling Hour Twitter feed, and his book is a great example. Like, I remember he was giving out, or on Amazon, he had human to human, be more human, and you could read the first paragraph the first page or the first chapter, and to me I thought that was genius, because he got me there because I wanted to be more human. Who doesn't want to be more human? But then once he got there, I was able to find some value and consume something. So I think it's a good lesson there for clickbaiting. I think Buffer had a great blog post where it's talking about what the most popular words are in content titles, and I can tell you, once that blog post came, all of a sudden all the clickbaiters started using those same exact things that we're learning that what works in a content title.
One weird trick to
yes, nine storytelling. Yes, we all know that those angles there for sure.
Well, that's a good segue into question 6. Visuals are super hot right now. Tools like Canva are making it incredibly easy to add colorful pictures to your tweets and social posts. For you, Jeff, what is the value of including visuals, and how can we avoid clickbaiting when using them?
Right. Well, I think making sure that the picture is relevant to your story is a big, requirement for me, right?
That matters. You can't just drop like a random stock picture and something and want me to click it.
Yeah, like on YouTube, it's so popular. Like, it doesn't matter what the video's about, just a picture of a girl showing her boobs, and then you're going to get those clicks, right? That's like a popular recipe to get people to the younger crowd, at least, to engage with your video. But no, you got to make it relevant to what your story is about. You don't want to fool people into And that happens a lot on Twitter. You see the little picture or the thumbnail, and oh, I'm gonna go check the story out, but the story is not really relevant to the picture. So have some kind of relationship there. I think pictures, you could use the stock photos that you buy, but I think the picture that you took is more powerful. So something that I would recommend content marketers to invest in is a good camera, right? Get your company to get like one of the DSLR cameras. The quality of those pictures alone gets people's attention. Like, wow, this is a sharp picture, a crisp photo, and they engage at higher rates with that. And I love following photographers on Instagram just to kind of get ideas for what constitutes a good picture. And that gives me insight for when I want to take pictures that I want to include in my own content. Something else to consider is in the picture, if you're going to share that picture, try to at least drop your link somewhere in the bottom on the right-hand side so that picture gets shared pretty often. At least maybe you'll get some traffic back to your site from it. Don't make it a gaudy watermark, because I think that will turn people off, but a little inconspicuous little logo on the right side, on the bottom left, or the right will get people to, maybe if they're interested enough, to come and check out the original page or where it's at.
Well, I think that's, it's crazy because I went through, someone had asked me the question for one of my iSocial Talks videos and said, how many times have you created a Canva graphic for someone's blog post that wasn't yours or wasn't on your blog website? So I went through, and that's pretty, I will say that I have like an addiction to not wanting to post links in my Twitter feed without a picture. And I posted the stats out there. I've tweeted 62,000 times from this account, and over 8,000 of those have had a picture in them. That ratio, I guarantee, is higher than a majority of people, if not almost everyone. So I'm not saying that that's a go-to, but like one of the things for me lately has been, if I'm going to create a Canva graphic for my own blog post or for someone else's, I put a timer up on my screen because I don't want to spend more than 10 minutes creating a graphic. But to me, if your content was that great and I create my own graphic for you, that's probably a good sign that the next piece of content you create, you should probably have a graphic. Because there's a lot of times that I'll read something and it has some great value and the stock image sucks. And rather than me sharing it to my social stream, I pocket it, and I'm like, well, if I get time to it later, I'll create a graphic. And I think that's a big mistake, not only brands, but social selling in general. If you're going to talk about this great tool that you have, or this great, our manufacturing process here at this location is top-notch. Okay, well, that's great. I'm taking your word for it. A nice picture would have been nice. And don't say you don't have a smartphone. If you're tweeting out, and what's the percentage of people that don't have a smartphone that are using Twitter? I can guarantee it's a very low percentage. So I think that's a great, visuals are, I tweeted out a couple of people that I recommend following. Jessica Gabriel, who works for Dunkin' Donuts, she wrote a book about visual storytelling. And then Dustin Stout, one of my favorites, he always posts links with like the best 60 resources for free images that are not copyrighted, and a lot of those type of things. So I recommend, when you can. Canva doesn't take. I am not a design person, and I've created over 500 Canvas. So if I can do it, I guarantee anybody else can do it. That's where these graphics come. For those that have asked in the Twitter stream, I saw the question. All the graphics that we use for Social Selling Hour, for my Cloud Talk, for the blogs that go up on Millennial CEO, all of that is through Canva.
So we've talked the importance of graphics, clickbaiting's bad news. What are some other content faux pas that you see a lot of businesses doing?
I see this is a very common one, but just talking when companies just talk about themselves and they only share their own content. It's like going to a networking event, right? Cocktail hour, everyone's hanging out, and there's always that one guy that all he does is stick business cards in people's faces and talks about what he's doing, what he's up to, doesn't ask questions, doesn't really care what you're doing. All he wants to do is talk about themselves. And people are doing the same exact thing on Twitter all the time. I see it. It's so common. It's scary. So I think that's a huge faux pas they should not be doing. If all you're doing is sharing what you're up to, you've got the wrong strategy.
No, and actually that's, one of the things that I like to say is, if you want to know someone has an old social content strategy, check to see if they're only sharing their own content on social. Because that's the sign to me of a company. I don't care what you're doing business with them. If you're going to work for them, for me that's a potential customer, right? So I look at that and say, okay, if 95% of it is your own stuff, do your followers care, or are they just tuning out your noise because it's, me, me, me? And I will say it 100 times that retweets are free, and if your competitors can't be doing everything wrong. So there's plenty of things that you can retweet or share from someone else. And I also have I'd be curious to get you guys' opinion on this. I believe that if you, as a brand, want your community to follow you, you must be following them back. So I'm not a big fan of, if you are a brand and you have you're following 200 people and you have 40,000 followers, what does that say to me? Like, you're so busy because you probably don't even look at your timeline to begin with. So why would you not go ahead and create a list of those 200 that you love, and then just follow me back to give me that warm and fuzzy, because I'm now thinking that you're hearing, because all these brands are saying, I'm listening to my community, I care, I really care, I want you to follow me, but I'm not going to follow you, because that's just doesn't. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Right. No, I agree. The next thing I was going to say. Make sure you're following your fans, your people that are your customers, and your prospects as well, and put them on a list, right? So that way you track those conversations. And if you want to take it one step further, automate. So if they ever talk about your competitor, you're getting an alert. So that way you can make sure you engage them if they're thinking about switching over, or they're have feedback that would be valuable to you. But follow them, add them to a list, and then track that list for keywords to make sure that you when they're talking about your product line or your industry or things that are relevant to you. But you want to be listening to the people that are buying and giving you money, for sure, always.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it was kind of a popular strategy a few years back to have a really skewed fan-follower count, but I think people see right through that these days. Big fan of following people back and creating lists. I know back to name drop Hootsuite again, but I add a lot of prospects to certain lists in Hootsuite, and then I use the filter by to do exactly what you're saying, Jeff, is to catch the buying signals or mentions of a competitor, so I can swoop in and push it back on my track. It's a really important part of social listening. So yes, definitely recommend following back.
Actually, I'm gonna do the same thing with Hootsuite. I use that a lot for how I manage my list, how I do my social listening. And the funny part is, my favorite blogger right now that exists, his name's Kevin Lee. He works for Buffer. Hands down, he writes anything. It's data backed. It's easily consumed.
He's a machine.
He is. He's a machine. And he posted today 23 seldom used ideas for how to use Twitter lists. I'm going to post that in the Twitter feed right now. To me, it talks about using it for your competition, using it for your biggest fans, the power of a private list. He even gives you examples of a bunch of great lists, and all I did was subscribe to all these lists that were really good so that I could study them. So that's a great resource to check out. I'll make sure to tweet that out there. That's definitely, I love that you guys agree with the falling back. It's the changing of the guard, the changing of the follower versus following ratio concept is old news. That's just ridiculous.
So speaking of changing of the guard, Jeff, what are your predictions for the future of content creation and distribution?
Well, there's going to be a lot more of it, that's for sure. There's going to be a lot more noise out there. So I think it becomes even more important to be creative with how you produce content, and also be more personal. So personalization is really taking over, where you have different people visiting your site. Everyone's interested in different stuff, and they've seen different things. Knowing that information, so that you could provide them a really relevant experience while they're on your site, and very custom to where their interests lie. So I think that's going to be the future of content marketing. Being able to track kind of how people are interacting with your content, exactly how they're finding out about you, or how long they're on your website, and then being able to dynamically show them stuff that will get them to stay on your site longer. Something else that I'm seeing emerge is having what is called a content hub. So making your website more like a Facebook or like a Pinterest, where you're producing curated content alongside your branded content, but you have a social feed also running somewhere on that site, and other way, maybe places to leave different comments or whatnot. But basically making your page very social media friendly and very interactive. So that's another trend that I'm seeing that with content marketing.
And actually, one of the things that you said there, social media friendly. I was funny. Social media friendly no longer allows you just to use the excuse to have a share link. When you share content with those share links, it should have your Twitter handle. It should be populated with hashtags, and even having the click to tweet elements embedded inside of posts. I love that. I think that's a great feature that people are using now, where I can share just the quotes, because sharing the headline's great, but sharing those individual insights. I know Vala Asfar does that with his Forbes post, and I end up sharing 6 tweets from that post rather than one just of the content headline. Think of that. That's a trend that I think is also changing. But I love those, Jeff. I think those are all good things. I will use my buzzword check marks now with upcycling, because I think the trend of upcycling is another element where you just take that one great piece of content and turn it into so many different other aspects. Where like I want to take this video, turn it into a blog post, then take the data out of it, turn it into an infographic. Then I'm going to take the combination of all 3 of those and turn it into a slide share. And I'm going to share that out on all of my networks, and in each different one of those is going to hit a different audience, and it's going to tell my story. Because the key there is we want to get our story out, and it's no longer about creating content for content's sake. It's about creating great content, helping people, and getting it out there in front of the community you care about. So I love that. So one of the other things I was curious about from your perspective, what you're seeing, we had the argument, and I would say argument, or we had the debate last week about marketing and sales being one and the same, or being combined together, or the chief marketing officer combination. What are you seeing from your side? Because you're coming in there, you're a sales enabler, Jeff. You guys come in and you're arming the sales team. I've heard you say multiple times that you care about what converts. That's not a traditional marketer's standpoint. So what do you say when people are like, are you a sales enablement tool? Are you a marketing enablement tool? Are you both? So I'm going to give you this I know this is off the record, I'm throwing this at you, so I'm curious.
Yeah. We're positioned more for the marketing people, right? And I think it's from a strategic standpoint, because marketers tend to have more budget dollars, right? Whereas the sales are more focused on, directly enabling the sales or providing sales training. So from a business model standpoint, we're always talking to the marketer, ideally, the CMO. However, what we're seeing is that there is going to be that wall that used to be up between marketing and sales is starting to come down, because sales is now getting more savvy, and they know, wow, social selling is huge. We got to get our salespeople active on social media. We got to make sure that they're sharing great content. Content's driving the nurturing process. It's helping us close more deals. So the sales guys are seeing this, and because of it, they're starting to work with the marketing team and working on the same page now, and working on the same team to figure out how can we drive sales by having more communication between what marketing is seeing, the numbers that they're seeing, the analytics and access to information that they have, but being able to then filter that out to the sales team and giving them a high-level outlook of what they should be sharing, of what they should be doing in order to help everyone out and driving awareness for the company, driving more leads, and getting more sales. So I am starting to see more teamwork across the clients that I have and the prospects that I'm talking to, that there is a relationship building that's happening now between marketing and sales.
I love it. I love that answer.
I think, sales and marketing alignment is crucial to a company's success these days. You can't have the siloed departments of the past. They need to be speaking to each other, because it truly is a team effort. Its content is not just about building awareness. It is the ultimate. It's conversion. I mean, we need conversions to stay in business. So marketing and sales do need to be very closely aligned. Which is actually, that's a nice lead into question 9, which I think unless you want to skip to question 10, Brian.
Yeah, let's do 10. Let's do 10.
Okay. Skipping to 10. Which platform is best for sharing content? LinkedIn, Twitter, your corporate blog? Curious to hear your answer, Jeff.
Here's the answer. Here's the right answer. The place where your customers and prospects are at. That's the best place to share your content on, right? That's the best platform to go to and share your content on. The answer is that it's different for everyone. Across the board for B2B, LinkedIn's winning out. That's the best place to share your content. That's where you're going to get the people that are going to convert and lead to leads and lead to revenue. Studies prove that. Your blog also is another great place. You want to be able to share that content and blog frequently. For me personally, LinkedIn is winning out. That's where most of my leads are coming from. That's where the engagement that happens there tends to go more viral, right? It tends to spread. I know you, Brian, are a huge fan of Twitter, obviously, right? What's your
It's a little bit.
what platform is working for you?
No, but I think that's actually, so we had this discussion on blog chat, Twitter chat last night, which I recommend. We're talking content. If you guys are not tuning in on Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific, or 6 p.m. Pacific time to Matt Collier's blog chat, it's definitely worth checking out. They were talking about which platform works best for bloggers, and I had this debate where I like that. To me, they all work great, or none of them work great from an all or nothing perspective. But you have to have a strategy for each. To me, I mean, LinkedIn is where I post and engage everything. I'm as real time as I can get. I have a direct strategy though. Everything that I post to LinkedIn has a strategy, and probably if not a strategy and a goal, a strategy and a plan of action with every single post I post to LinkedIn. Where on Twitter, I'm a little bit more sharing everything that I find value in. And then, Google Plus to me is still an untapped resource. We're doing this on a Hangout right now, and to me, Hangouts, the fact that they live on YouTube, the fact that we can engage in the comment section of this blog for years on end, that's a lot of power that a Twitter chat today can't handle. Now, I like that the new tweetchat.com website that a lot of people do the Twitter chats on, which is the one I recommend from a Twitter chat perspective. They're allowing you now to favorite and kind of get transcripts of chats moving forward, which I think is a future of, we want to be able to have this content and this engagement, last longer in our cycle for sure. But LinkedIn, I'll tell you what, LinkedIn, when you invest the time on LinkedIn, LinkedIn's a powerful tool. I'm on your boat there for sure.
So we have an interesting question from Brian Kramer, which caught my eye in the stream. He's asking, how much do you budget for all of your tools? And my initial response is you need to know the cost of customer acquisition, because a tool might be cheap, but if it's not actually going to help you acquire more customers and close more deals, it's probably doesn't matter what it costs, it's not worth it. But knowing how much it truly costs across the board for you to acquire a customer is important, because I bet you can afford more than you think you can. I think a lot of businesses really need to crunch some numbers and work that out. But I'm curious to hear what you guys think.
How much money you got, Brian? No, I think you're right. Knowing the CPA, the cost per acquisition, is key, because then that way okay, what does it cost to get a lead? And if that's what I'm able to allocate per lead, then okay, I have a certain amount of budget allocated for tools that will help me achieve that. Typically, across the marketing departments that I talk to for technology, they reserve between 3 to 10% of their overall annual marketing budget is allocated just for technology.
And I think that's it's an interesting one. I've had that debate where I'm a huge fan of utilizing free tools as much as you can, and if there's a way to purchase a tool and buy the pro version, or like I'm using so many tools that I end up getting my clients to use that are the minimal so I'm talking $20 to $40 a month. I mean, ideally, my last company, I was very blessed. I had an awesome tool called Tracker, and I had an awesome tool called Sprinkler. And I had Sprinkler and Tracker, and two of the most powerful tools that are out there. I know Spark HQ is another one that's a powerful tool, but you're talking $60K a year. Where when I go to manage my clients now, I'm using BuzzSumo, which has a $20 to $100 range. I'm using Spider, which is in the I think when you start looking at tools, when you figure out that strategy, hopefully what that closing rate has a dollar figure on it, so that you can link it back to your tools. That's a good question. That's probably a great question to go into a future chat or a future discussion, because I'm a big fan of this. And we actually just ran up on the hour, actually a minute late. So I will give you this honor. Jeff, you're the first one that made us run late on a social selling hour, because I think it was the passion and the topic and your insights. So I want to thank you. I want to thank everybody on Twitter. Twitter was going faster than I could have kept up to today, and I've been practicing my multitasking, and today was awesome. So Jeff, tell us where we can connect with you, some more information,
Sure.
And then we'll kind of head our way out of here.
Sure, you can follow me on Twitter at Jeff Zelaya. Also follow Triblio at Triblio, and you can email me Jeff Zelaya or Jeff@Triblio.com. And just thanks everyone for making this chat just super awesome. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Rachel. You guys are awesome. I learned a lot from our conversation, and very honored to be part of the Social Selling Hour. So thank you guys for the opportunity.
Well, you have a tough bar to set because we have I probably think almost every guest we've had in here, maybe minus one that can come to mind, is active in our chat today. So we appreciate you being an active community member from day one, and I'm going to say thank you ahead of time for your support moving forward on future chats. And maybe what we'll do is we'll get a tools chat, a panel discussion. We had a really good success last week with our panel, and we'll bring back a bunch of tools people. We'll get Vidar back on there from Metalit, have yourself back on there. Maybe we'll even have Rachel as a guest, not let her host, so she can talk about CRM from a pipeliner perspective, or even get Eric on. So once again, thank you, Twitter. Thank you, Rachel, for being the brains, the questions, the brains and the beauty behind Social Selling Hour. And we will be here again, same channel, same time next week. I will be tuning in from IBM Insights in Vegas, so I will have a different background. So I look forward to everybody. Thanks again, Twitterverse, Google Plus World, and those watching on YouTube. Cheers, all.
Have a great week, guys.
Bye, guys.